So for centuries, there was this basically ironclad rule in ancient Buddhist lore. I mean, an unquestioned rule that a female body was just, fundamentally disqualified from full enlightenment. It was just a given.
Yeah, it really was. It was just accepted as the natural order of things.
Right. So today on the Deep Dive, we are looking at this fascinating text called Every Buddha Was Born of Her. And it explores how a series of these revolutionary figures didn't just politely challenge that ancient rule, they completely dismantled it. They rewrote the entire architecture of who gets to be enlightened.
It is a remarkable piece of text. I mean, it really forces us to look closely at how any spiritual tradition, or honestly, any longstanding institution, grapples with its own inherited patriarchal myths.
Yeah, exactly.
It shows us how foundational assumptions can just be subverted from the inside out.
And for you listening right now, whether you are deeply interested in philosophy or you're a student of history, or honestly, if you just love a brilliantly executed story of rebellion, this deep dive is going to deliver some major aha moments.
Oh, absolutely.
We are going to unpack how these ancient stories offer like a blueprint for how we handle the rigid inherited rules in our own lives today.
Right.
But to really appreciate the rebellion, we kind of have to understand exactly what they were rebelling against.
Right.
So the text anchors this in something called the myth of the five thrones.
Yes, the five thrones. To understand the psychological weight of this rule, you have to realize this wasn't just a minor footnote.
It was a big deal.
A huge deal. It was a deeply entrenched cosmological ceiling. The rule stated that a female body could not hold 5 specific titles. First, a woman could not become a Brahma, which is essentially like an apex creator deity in this cosmology.
Right.
Second, she could not be an Indra. That's the king of the gods who rules over the heavens. Third, she couldn't be a Mara, the powerful lord of desire, illusion, and death.
Wow. Right.
Fourth, she could not turn the wheel as a universal monarch, so meaning a supreme, world-conquering earthly ruler. And fifth, and this is the crucial one, she could not become a fully awakened Buddha.
So it wasn't just about spiritual awakening then. It was like a blanket ban on holding any position of ultimate power.
Exactly.
Whether that power was creative, authoritative, earthly, or spiritual, the doors were just locked.
Locked and heavily guarded by tradition. And what the text brilliantly points out is, the mechanism of how this rule survived.
Right.
It was passed along the way most inherited things are. It was repeated constantly as though it were just an immutable law of nature. But it was never actually examined for who benefited from believing it.
Right. The men transmitting the teachings just accepted it because it worked for them.
Precisely. They saw it as the natural order.
Which sets the stage for what happens when someone finally refuses to accept that natural order. If the five thrones rule was this obstacle built on unquestioned assumptions, the text shows us different ways it was dismantled. And I want to start with a figure who tackled it through just sheer staggering endurance. We were introduced to a princess named Yeshidawa.
Yes, Yeshidawa, whose name translates to Wisdom Moon. Her story's fascinating because of the sheer scale of time involved here. According to the lore, she had spent more lifetimes than could be counted generating the deep wish for full awakening.
Just lifetimes upon lifetimes?
Yes. The driving force of her existence was to achieve enlightenment on behalf of every being who suffered. She is quite literally putting in the work across eons.
And the societal context around her is just painfully familiar. I mean, she is surrounded by monks who see all the incredible spiritual work she's doing, but the text notes that they gently suggest she should pray to be reborn in a male body in her next life.
It is so essential to recognize the insidious nature of that gentle advice,
Yeah, gentle is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Exactly. The monks genuinely thought they were being helpful. In their minds, the path to ultimate awakening was exclusively male. They saw her female form as like a mechanical error in her spiritual progression.
Right, like she just had a faulty vehicle?
Exactly. They're essentially telling her, you have so much potential, but you're carrying this unfortunate physical burden. Just change your gender next time, and it will remove the obstacle.
But she doesn't thank them for their advice. She just completely rejects their entire premise. She tells them there is no man here and no woman here to begin with. She introduces this profound philosophical argument stating that male and female are merely labels. They're concepts laid over a reality that was never actually divided.
She is applying one of the most advanced concepts in Buddhist philosophy, the idea of non-duality or emptiness, directly to gender.
Which is huge.
It is. If all phenomena are empty of a fixed inherent essence, then male and female cannot be absolute realities. So she diagnoses the monk's problem. Their rigid clinging to the label is the actual spiritual hindrance.
Wow.
The body isn't the obstacle, their prejudice is.
Okay, let's unpack this, because her response goes beyond just a philosophical debate, right?
Yeah.
She makes what the text describes as a vow with teeth.
A vow with teeth, yes.
She doesn't just say, I can be enlightened too. She vows that she will attain complete enlightenment, specifically as a woman. And she doubles down. She vows to continuously be reborn as a woman, lifetime after lifetime, to liberate beings, precisely because so few had ever vowed to do the work in that specific form.
It's incredible.
To me, it's like being told you can't play a professional sport because you don't have the right uniform. And instead of just putting on the uniform they demand, she buys the entire league and just changes the rule book.
What's fascinating here is her absolute refusal to be an exception, folded into someone else's tradition.
Right. She doesn't want to be the token exception.
Exactly. She could have easily accepted their premise, prayed for a male rebirth, and been fast-tracked into the boys' club, but she recognized that doing so would validate the corrupt architecture of the five thrones.
She'd be proving them right.
Yes. So she claimed her own realization on her own terms, and she succeeds. After eons of practice, she becomes Tara.
Tara, which translates to cross, to ferry, to carry to the other side.
Yeah. Correct, a fully realized Buddha. And her iconography really reflects her triumph. The text describes her appearing as green and swift in one form, rushing to the aid of beings, and white and patient in another, offering this deep, sustaining compassion.
So cool.
And in none of these forms is she waiting for a committee's permission.
I love that. So Yeshidawa proves that time, endurance, and this unyielding commitment can dismantle the rule. But then the text poses this brilliant counter question. What if you don't have eons to wait?
Right.
Which brings us to our next figure, who bypasses time entirely and shatters the five thrones in the blink of an eye.
Yes. We move from the vast spans of eons to the immediacy of an 8-year-old Naga princess. This is a story famously found in the Lotus Sutra.
And we should probably quickly clarify what a Naga is here, right? Because she's dealing with a triple marginalization.
Exactly. A Naga is a mythological being, often depicted as a powerful serpent or a dragon spirit associated with water and hidden treasures.
Okay, so not human.
Right. So not only is she female, and not only is she a child, but she isn't even entirely human. She is as far outside the traditional power structure of the monks as one can possibly be. Yet at 8 years old, she is already teaching the wisest men in the room. They can see her brilliance.
But of course, the ancient rule rears its head again. Even though they see her wisdom, someone brings up the five thrones. They tell this, child prodigy that her realization cannot possibly be complete because she's in a female body. But her reaction is completely different from Yeshidawa's. I mean, she doesn't debate philosophy. She doesn't make a vow that spans lifetimes.
No, she simply takes a priceless jewel, which represents her profound insight and realization, and offers it to the Buddha. And the text really notes the speed of this interaction.
Yeah, it's instantaneous.
She offers the jewel, it is accepted instantly, and in that same fraction of a second, her full awakening is finalized. As the text beautifully puts it, it happens faster than the argument against her could even finish forming.
I love the dramatic timing of that. But I do have to push back on one specific detail here, because when I was reading through the source material, I hit a snag.
Ooh, what was that?
The story says that right after she offers the jewel, she shifts her form into a male body before departing to teach. And wait, doesn't that mean the monks kind of won the argument? Like, if she achieves enlightenment but then immediately changes her shape to match the male standard, isn't she effectively conceding to the five throne rule?
That is a great point. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you are touching on a tension that scholars have debated for centuries. The text explicitly acknowledges those dual interpretations.
Okay, so I'm not the only one who noticed that.
Definitely not. For a long time, the patriarchal establishment did read her shifting form as a concession. A comforting reassurance that at the very last second, she had to become male to truly cross the finish line.
Right, like a loophole that keeps the old rules intact.
But the text guides us toward the deeper, far more radical realization here. Think about the physics of what she just did. Something that can change shape that instantly, with zero effort, was never solid to begin with.
Oh, wow.
By shifting form so effortlessly, she proved that the ground had just given out from under the rule itself. The monks were obsessed with the heavy, unchangeable solidity of the physical body. Her fluidity proved that the body was never the point.
It's just a shape.
Exactly. The realization underneath the form is all that mattered.
So she isn't validating their rule. She's basically mocking the very concept of physical limitation.
Yes.
I mean, if individuals can dismantle the rule through endurance or speed, the text then takes this even more radical step. It asks us to look past the individuals and examine the actual foundation of awakening itself. And it reveals that the very ground of enlightenment has always been female.
We move from the practitioners to the source to a figure known as Prajnaparamita.
The perfection of wisdom.
Precisely. In the vast cosmology of these teachings, before any historical Buddha ever sat down under a tree to meditate, there was an origin point. The tradition consistently names Prajnaparamita as the mother of all Buddhas.
Wow.
She isn't just a deity you pray to. She is the foundational essence of wisdom itself.
And the text makes sure to emphasize that this is not just some nice poetic metaphor to make women feel included.
Not at all.
The author calls it a literal, load-bearing claim. Wisdom itself is a womb. Awakening doesn't produce wisdom. Wisdom produces awakening. Every single enlightened being, all those men claiming the 5 thrones, were born from what she is.
It fundamentally reorients the entire hierarchy of knowledge.
Yeah.
The patriarchy tried to frame wisdom as an accessory to enlightenment, a tool a male practitioner picks up along his journey.
Like a sword or a shield.
Exactly. But Prajnaparamita proves that wisdom is not the tool. It is the prerequisite spaciousness that allows enlightenment to exist at all.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. It completely flips the power dynamic.
Yeah.
It makes me think of a group of men aggressively arguing at the door of this exclusive VIP clubhouse, right? Debating who holds the right pass to get inside.
I like this analogy.
And they're doing all this while completely ignoring the female architect, who literally designed the building, poured the concrete, and owns the land it sits on.
That is exactly it.
As the text says, she was never waiting outside the category to be let in. The category was born from her.
That is a perfect encapsulation. They're arguing over access to a house she built. The patriarchal myth of the 5 thrones tries to put a gate around enlightenment, but the truth is that the gate, the path, and the destination itself are all manifestations of a feminine principle.
So if Prajnaparamita is this quiet, foundational ground, the womb from which everything springs, the text then asks, what does it look like when that feminine ground is fully and actively occupied in the messy real world?
Yes.
And the answer it provides is incredibly fierce.
Very fierce and highly disruptive to traditional ascetic models. We are introduced to Vajrayogini.
The imagery is just visceral. I mean, she is described as red, dancing, and entirely unhidden. She isn't sitting quietly in meditation. She holds a curved knife in one hand, which the text explains is used to slice right through fixed, rigid thought. But it's what she holds in her other hand that really grabbed my attention. She holds a skull cup.
Yes. To understand the skull cup, you have to understand the ascetic traditions she is disrupting.
Okay.
Asceticism is largely based on suppression, right? Escaping the body, denying physical cravings, avoiding mortality to somehow free the mind.
Right, the whole deny the flesh thing.
Exactly. The skull cup represents the exact opposite. It holds raw human desire and mortality, but instead of running from it, she meets it directly.
She drinks it in. The text says it holds what desire becomes once it stops being denied.
Exactly. Vajrayogini represents a state where the messy physical reality of being human isn't suppressed. It is utilized as fuel for awakening.
Wow.
And notice how practitioners are instructed to interact with her.
Right. You don't petition her from afar.
Yeah.
You don't, bow and ask for favors.
No, advanced practitioners are taught to generate themselves as her. They visualize themselves stepping into her form. Because she is not a helper standing to the side of the fully realized state. She is what the fully realized state looks like when it stops apologizing.
Yeah.
When it stops pretending it needs to fit into a sanitized patriarchal box.
She is the absolute rejection of the apology. I love that. But out of all these incredible figures, my absolute favorite story, and the one that feels the most modern to me, involves this unnamed goddess from the Vimalakirti Sutra.
Oh, yes.
Because she takes this fierce, uncompromising reality and delivers it with just a devastating sense of humor.
It is a brilliant narrative of turning the tables. So this
Yeah.
goddess is conversing with a senior monk,
Yeah.
and this monk, who is steeped in his unquestioned authority and the certainty of the five thrones, suggests to her that she should transform out of her female body.
And the arrogance of it is amazing. The text says he suggests it the way one might suggest a small correction. He just assumes her physical form is a typo in the universe.
Right, but instead of debating him or taking eons to prove him wrong, she simply uses her realization to swap their bodies.
It's so good.
Suddenly, she is in his male form, and he is entirely trapped inside her female form.
And he absolutely panics. He is trapped in the very body he just insisted was spiritually defective, and he tries to argue his way out of it. He tries to logic his way back into his male body, but he finds he cannot change back, as the text says, by force of opinion alone.
Right.
So what does this all mean? I have to ask you, is this goddess just playing a prank to humiliate this guy? Or is this the ultimate brutal teaching tool for someone trapped in their own rigidity?
Well, this raises an important question about how deep prejudice actually runs in the human mind. It is certainly playful, yes, but the lesson is deadly serious.
Okay.
By swapping their bodies and leaving him trapped, she forces him to experience his own conceptual prejudice as a literal physical boundary.
He is choking on his own rule.
Precisely. The text points out that the discomfort belonged entirely to him. The body itself was never an obstacle to enlightenment. The certainty that the body was an obstacle, that was the actual barrier.
Ah, I see.
And that barrier completely dissolved the moment someone with absolutely nothing to prove simply declined to agree with his reality.
She just opted out of his delusion, and his entire worldview collapsed because his authority was based on an illusion.
Exactly. He was trying to impose a limitation by the sheer force of inherited authority. By playfully stripping him of that authority, she demonstrates that rigid opinions hold absolutely no weight against ultimate reality.
And that really synthesizes everything we've looked at from this text today. I mean, whether it is Yeshidawa rewriting the rules over eons, or the Naga princess proving form as an illusion in a fraction of a second, or Prajnaparamita acting as the very architect of awakening, Vajrayogini transmuting raw desire, or this goddess just humbling a senior monk with a body swap, they all point to one resounding truth. These female figures were never an addition. They were never a special case or an accommodation granted by the men in the room. Full awakening was always theirs to begin with.
The architecture of the five thrones was always a flimsy partition. There was never a version of ultimate truth that excluded them.
And this brings us directly back to you listening to this right now. It is easy to look at an ancient text and admire the history.
Yeah.
But the reason a deep dive into these stories matters today is that it invites you to look around at the architecture of your own life.
Absolutely.
What are the five thrones in your workplace? What are the unwritten rules in your field of study or the rigid dynamics in your family? What inherited certainties are you bumping up against that are really just prejudices waiting to be ignored?
It is a critical inquiry for all of us, and I think it leaves us with something even deeper to consider. We saw how these ancient figures prove that something as universally accepted as gender was ultimately just a label to be discarded on the path to truth. But it makes you wonder, if a label that fundamental is really just an illusion blocking our progress, what other core labels are we blindly accepting right now?
Oh, that's a great question.
Think about concepts like success or failure, or even our very rigid definitions of our own self. How much faster could our own awakening happen, our own breakthroughs in life, relationships, or work, if we simply stopped agreeing with the rigid opinions we hold about ourselves?
Sometimes the most rebellious thing you can do is just decline to agree with the obstacle.